that's the goal, is to get completely off of fossil fuels, so we are no longer polluting that waste into the environment.
That was Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson explaining how it is his plan for the city of Vancouver to completely eliminate fossil fuel use within the city by 2050. That goes for heating houses with natural gas, gasoline-powered vehicles, diesel-powered trucks and buses, and even restaurants are going to be forced to cook with electricity rather than cheap, reliable natural gas. This is such a crazy idea, I don't think I need to tell you that. Mayor Robertson was speaking just there in front of a new solar panel array on the roofs of the Falls Creek Paddling Center. The city is now partnering with Solar City, a local solar panel company, each spending $23,000 for this latest installation. However, when examining the energy and electricity mix of British Columbia, it becomes apparent very quickly these types of solar panel installations actually do not offset energy produced from fossil fuels, and thus they do not reduce emissions. You see, BC is already a world leader in low-carbon renewable electricity from hydroelectric dams. In fact, in any given year, 97% of our electricity comes directly from BC Hydro. So that leaves me with this question. Why are we doing this? Are we not simply following the same dangerous path Ontario went down under Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne, where reliable gas and coal power plants were closed or cancelled in favor of solar and wind energy schemes that ended up simply lining the pockets of their crony Liberal friends? Well, certainly nobody is lining their pockets for $23,000 of public money just yet. But after the announcement by the mayor, I asked him directly why solar installations are necessary to reduce emissions when we already produce 97% of our electricity from renewable low-carbon hydropower, and whether a project like the Site C Dam is necessary as the city plans to dramatically increase the number of electric vehicles on our roads and the number of electric furnaces in our homes. Here's what the mayor said.
Certainly, almost all of our electricity is renewable now through hydroelectric power. There's a few percent in any given year that isn't, so we have a little bit of shoring up to do with that. And I think it's important to demonstrate the oncoming necessity of solar power increasingly being relevant. As to Site C, I think we don't know the bottom line in terms of energy needs going forward. We are seeing far more efficiency in our homes and buildings here, and our focus is on having the greenest building code in North America and moving to very energy efficient homes and buildings so that we don't have a big reliance on energy to heat and cool our buildings and to provide lighting. So we are seeing a big shift now on energy efficiency that will reduce our need for more energy. The province is going to have to work out what their overall needs are, but hopefully we're going to see a balance in terms of new investment of having solar and wind along with the hydroelectric power that we have now. There's no question we need to get off of fossil fuels.
The mayor's right. There is 3% or so of our electricity that does not come from BC Hydro every year. But there is no way that small-scale installations of solar panels on the roofs of public buildings like this is going to eliminate that 3%, which is actually in mostly rural areas away from BC Hydro's transmission grid. But I digress. But there is another question that needs to be asked of those concerned with carbon footprints worldwide and not simply local greenhouse gas emissions and the threat of climate change. And that is, if these panels are not offsetting any carbon emissions in British Columbia because the electricity we produce here is already emission-free, what about the carbon emissions from producing the panels, mining the rare earth minerals needed for these solar panels, and then of course the transportation of these panels after production from Asia, likely China, across the Pacific here to British Columbia? So I asked the mayor.
With every energy use, there is a cost and there's an impact on the planet. That's why we need to reduce our energy use every possible way we can. In buildings, in our homes, in our vehicles and transportation use, we just have to use a lot less. So efficiency is the primary goal overall, particularly here in the city where we use a lot of energy. And then deriving that energy from renewable sources is absolutely critical, not polluting our atmosphere and changing our climate.
I honestly don't think a single journalist has ever asked a question like that. But I do appreciate the mayor being honest about one thing. There is no such thing as impact-free energy and electricity. Even from wind and solar, there is an impact on the environment. But he is wrong about how important solar power is. It will never be a source of reliable baseload power as long as it is intermittent based on the amount of insolation, that's radiation from the sun, the Earth receives in any single day. So often proponents of renewable energy technologies like solar talk about how renewables are good for the economy. Now assume for a second that renewables could provide electricity at a low price and reliably, which we know from the experience in Ontario is far from true, then yes, I would agree that these solar panels seem like they're good for the economy. But the problem is, unlike fossil fuels which we produce here in Canada, or hydroelectric production like we do here in Canada, the economic benefit from solar panels and their production is all overseas. I'd be 100% okay with pushing more solar energy if we could build our own solar panel factories here in Canada, approve new rare earth mineral mines, again, here in Canada as we need them. But that just isn't part of the plan. Costs would be too high and the environmental impact too great. So it's best these environmentalists leave the environmental hazards of green energy production out of sight and out of mind in places like Baotou, China. The placement of solar panels at a cost of $23,000 to the Vancouver taxpayer is ultimately inconsequential. Same with the amount of electricity these panels end up producing. So letting the mayor and the city virtue signal solar power around the summer solstice is fine, I guess. But as we see the city implement its plan to radically end fossil fuel use completely by 2050, that is when I begin to get nervous. BC is lucky right now. We currently have the third lowest electricity costs on the entire continent. But as we push more and more of these solar schemes, we know the results are going to be higher electricity costs. We need only look at Ontario for all the evidence we need. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Look, this is a bad idea, plain and simple. Ending fossil fuel use in the city of Vancouver by 2050 will cause great pain. So, I've already started a petition months ago when this first started. Head to badidea.ca, sign it, and let's tell Mayor Gregor Robertson that natural gas and fossil fuel use is not going anywhere in the city of Vancouver.